Hey guys, welcome to another New World video. So as unbelievable as it may seem at this point, the February patch has finally dropped, or should we be calling it the March patch? I'm not really sure. For those of you who have not been paying attention for the past few weeks, I will go over some of the changes that they have implemented with this patch. They fixed and changed an absolute ton of things in this section, ranging from graphics fixes to AI changes. I won't cover everything in this section obviously, but some of the more important ones that we might notice are that was letting people squeeze out of the playable space in the depths. They fixed it so you can't stack camps anymore, so no more obstacle courses around the map. They claim they fixed a lot of the floating weird things like stones, azoth, springs, trees, stuff like that that's floating above your head. They changed the UI of some of the Reekwater Ancients to make it easier for solo players. They made the Adamant Mine a little more difficult in Monarch's Bluff. Anyway, it's a bunch of crap like that, changing some creature stamina regeneration rates to make them easier and harder and a bunch of small fixes. Oh, and one that you might want to know about is that Siren can now attack you at the edge of the arena. They fixed that exploit. They also made a few changes to the expeditions, namely Genesis and Lazarus. They made the Greenskeeper's head hitbox bigger so you can headshot him now with ranged. That's going to be a good one because his head hitbox was so small before. They lined up the visual effects to sync with the damage. They tuned some of the video effects on the Naga attacks. That's about it for Genesis. For Lazarus, they made a pile of changes. They increased Chartis's stun to 5 seconds. They increased the time on phase 3 of the laser from 75 to 90 seconds. They reduced the laser downtime to 30 seconds. They increased Chartis's damage across the board by 25%. And for his laser damage, they increased that by 15% across the board. His laser will also do 15% damage as health per second now. They also reworked Chartis also, so that he has proper strengths and weaknesses traits now. I wasn't aware that he didn't before, but I never really paid that close of attention. They increased Chartis' headshot volume. So it will be interesting to see how these changes, especially with all the buffs to Chartis and Lazarus, will translate over to mutations. Let's just hope that it doesn't end up that they're ridiculously overtuned to mutations and it doesn't work out. They also made a few adjustments to mutations that you might want to be aware of. They reduced the timer on the Desiccated from 60 seconds to 45 seconds. And they buffed up the curse damage so people couldn't out-health it anymore. So now it'll just be a 65% health damage always. And Desiccated will be a 50% base health damage. They also decreased the cooldown to buy keys from the faction shop for mutators to once every 3 days now. They also lowered the cost to craft them a little. I think they take 3 dust now. That's it though for mutators, so nothing too huge, but I wanted to mention that stuff. And of course, as I am sure you all know, they changed weapon swapping a little. You can now swap weapons during hit reactions, during dodges, rolls, and even while using consumables. It is an instant though. It cues the action with a 1-second timer. So it still feels a bit weird, but at least now you know you will swap the weapon when you hit the key. Like, the swap won't be cancelled now if you get hit or staggered. They also made a lot of big changes to dodging and blocking. They shortened the recovery time on dodges across the board. They also made all the attacks cancel now if you dodge, which is kinda nice. Basically, they made it so nothing cancels your movement now. Dodging, jumping off of rocks, and shit like that. It's basically a pretty good change. It feels a lot smoother now. During the first round, it felt like a little bit too much, like your character was skating around. But by the time the third iteration of the PTR came around, it feels like they got it a lot better. They also changed how the 300 focus attribute works a little bit. They made it so the mana regen will now trigger when the caster drops below 15 mana. I'm not a healer and never use focus, so I'm not sure how that one affects you guys. You can let me know in the comments. They made a bunch of small fixes to stuff, like the ability to clip through certain walls and stuff while proning, attack cancels not working in water and shit like that. They made a ton of weapon changes. So my best advice to you is to come have a look if any of the weapons you use are on this list. But the biggest changes are the nerfs to the Void Gauntlet and the Rapier that I'm sure everyone knows about. They made a bunch of fixes to perks. Mostly just changing them so the tooltips read correctly, nothing really major. But in case anyone has been using Shirking Energy, this one only works with light loadouts now as intended, before it was working on any loadout weight. For wars and invasions, they fixed the Void Destroyer not dying sometimes when both eyes were destroyed. They of course, as I'm sure everyone knows, made a ton of changes to the Outpost Rush. A whole huge list of bug fixes with the NPCs and the visual effects in Outpost Rush were fixed. But more notably, they changed how Outpost Rush is scored. Dealing damage now increases the player's score. They reduced the amount of points you get for just killing a player, and they reduced the amount of points granted from killing AI. They greatly increased the chance that Outpost Rush caches will grant expertise bumps, which is good. They added jewelry to Outpost Rush cache as a 15% chance to drop as a 4th item, not actually removing one of the original items and replacing it. They also locked the perk list that Outpost Rush items can roll from, so you should now start getting more perks that will be more applicable to PvP. No more Beast Slayer and stuff like that. You earn Umbral Shards now in Outpost Rush, 100 for winning and 50 for losing. You will also be getting faction tokens for playing Outpost Rush, all on top of the original rewards we got before. You'll get the faction tokens the same amount whether you win or lose. They made hundreds of quest fixes and stuff. I won't get into all of that stuff because this would turn into Patch Notes the movie. This list is long and feel free to come read it if it affects you. They reduced the amount of XP needed to level all the life skills that make things like armoring, furniture, weaponsmithing, jewel crafting, and arcana by 10%. They also reduced the fishing XP needed to get to 200 by 38%. But for cooking, they have increased the required aptitude to get a crate by 30% because they felt like it was too easy. They changed the drop internal cooldowns on the gypsums, making them all shorter so that they'll drop faster for you to finish, and the topaz gypsum no longer has an internal cooldown. They of course added the smelter crafting set to the tier 3 smelting aptitude crates, so I hope you guys have a few of those saved up to open. On the topic of umbrals, they increased the amount you get from gypsum casts to 100 at gear score 600 to 400 at 625 gear score. Now when you open them, that's a massive increase. They also increased the amount from crafting from 25 to 100, which is nice but not a huge increase. And you can now purchase a gypsum orb once a day from the faction shop. They also adjusted the tax system, which I know a lot of you were waiting for. It's capped at 1% now, not 10%, so that'll be nice. They reduced the Azoth travel cost also, which at this point, they might as well removed it. But anyway, it's now 20 Azoth across the board to travel anywhere, no matter of your weight or distance, and they reduced the cooldowns of inns and houses by half. Oh, and I forgot to mention about gypsums. The level 60 quests in Reekwater and Shattered Mountain now reward gypsum orbs. And that's any quests, not just faction quests or whatever. They don't actually give them to you for faction quests, it's just the side quests. And for people out there who happen to be still leveling, they've increased the side quest experience by 50%, which is pretty big. So guys, there was a ton of changes and fixes in this one. It almost sounds like it isn't even going to be the same game. Let's pray that they did not break anything else in this patch, because with the leaks to the new content in March and everything positive that they have hinted is on the way, I just want to see the game heal and not get any more broken. Anyway guys, that's it for the patch notes. Are you going to log in and check it out, or have you just had it? Let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.